Hey, what's up, Atlanta Fringe? I'm Eli. We're here at Do You Validate Studios, and I'm talking today with two of our Street Fringe performers, Eddie and Chris, the Crooner and the Conjurer. You guys want to tell us a little bit about what we're in for with your show?
A little bit of singing, a little bit of magic.
That's awesome.
Hopefully a lot of magic.
Okay.
And a lot of singing. So.
How do these two elements come together?
They didn't to begin with. We
Yeah.
thought, okay, that's strange. Those two things just don't match. But we got together and realized we do some different stuff, and we put it together. So we hope people will like it.
So Eddie's an opera singer by trade. We each have boring day jobs. Eddie was once a world traveling opera singer. He's been kind enough to come to some of my magic shows over the years, and one time sent me an audio of a song he was working on. And when I heard it, I knew we needed to do something together. And that's been a while ago. So a few scripts later, and ideas back and forth, here we are.
Well, and I've also learned a lot about magic. Like I thought, okay, what kind of magic does he do? Do you saw people in half or make people disappear? But he does intimate magic, but it's sleight of hand.
Intimate.
Oh, wow.
And so it's really very interesting to do things like cabarets and things that are small, but we can also do things that are bigger in scale. So it's kind of fun.
So for Atlanta Street Fringe, where we're outside in public, we've got people just walking up to see what happens.
Yeah.
This is very much for them, personalized, kind of in-their-face sort of magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, come closer.
Yeah.
Pick a card.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, and also, if they aren't coming closer, then I sing louder.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
How do these fold together? I mean, is the music complementing the magic? Is it more of a soundtrack as the magic is happening?
It's a little of both.
Yeah.
So what we've tried to put together is where's the focus, and sometimes the focus is on me, and sometimes it's the magic. So sometimes I'm background or sort of riffing, and then sometimes it's all more about the music. So that's what we're sort of figuring out. And I think for the street, it's going to be interesting because it'll also depend on the crowd. Like what they want. Is it kids? Is it someone older?
Yeah.
Is it a couple? How long do they stay?
I think it's very much of a two-man show.
Yeah.
Some of the routines that we're putting together, the pieces are scripted tightly so that we are in unison. And others, he's going to do some solo pieces. I'll do some solo pieces. And I think the longer that we're together and the more we endeavor to do this, I think the more of our show will be simultaneous sorts of things.
Yeah.
Well, and also what's cool for us is we're building our other Fringe shows, and we're trying to have a show that has a theme. That's also been interesting. So it's not just numbers or bits, but there really is actually a message. So like, think what the DC Fringe is about happiness. Right. And so it's nice to think, okay, there's a point to it, not just random numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this process that we're seeing at Street Fringe is almost workshopping larger shows as well.
That's exactly what it is.
Fantastic.
So we might make mistakes, but hopefully Chris will make them disappear.
Perfect. What's something you guys have learned as you've sort of built this show out together?
I'll let you answer that one first.
Well, it's a partnership. I will say that. So there's got to be some give and take and some compromise and finding higher ground. How's about that? And so we are, again, trying to figure out what works, but we're also going to need people we're going to need to do things and get feedback from an audience, too. So as a one-person something, so our first show we did together, it was literally like Eddie did his piece, then Chris did his piece, and we weren't together, but did a show. That's easier, right? And so now putting two sort of unlikely things together is going to be some compromise. And I also think, too, sharing a stage where, again, where is the focus and the balance? Audience participation is a part of our show. So I think we've learned a lot, and we're going to continue to learn. So.
For me, Eddie's, he plays the ukulele and sings. He provides a lot of misdirection, which makes it easier for me to do like the dirty work. And so and I sort of thought that would be the case, but it's been a real advantage having another live person rather than doing kind of a one-man show, because when the attention shifts to his voice, it's very easy to get away with murder. So that's kind of what I've learned.
And I've learned a lot about magic, because like I did, and then now I know some of the tricks, which I can't tell because IE's threatened me with my life.
Sure, yeah.
Because they don't share those, but I have I've sort of just been watching, and I kind of catch things, so that's been fun.
Yeah.
And what is the word? The prestige? I've just learned a lot about magic and the history of magic, and there's some rules. Like, I guess I would say there in opera, what I used to think there are rules of the game. Magic, there are rules to the game. I think that's what's been interesting about this is we get to sort of create our own rules, if you will. So that's been also kind of fun.
What sort of crossovers have you found that relate to both media?
There are a few. In every magic trick, there's a moment.
Yeah.
Or there should be.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's why you're engaging someone, or you're having someone watch what you're doing. I think the same thing is very true in Eddie's operatic style of singing. And so I think each piece that we work on, we're trying to figure out where those moments are. But sometimes it's a voice moment, sometimes it's a visible illusion or a mind trick. But it makes you think about things differently when you have different sorts of moments. And putting them together.
I also think too, there's stories. Like songs have stories, which can suspend time. That's something I know Chris has learned. Is I get to suspend time with music, and magic is, but also it's got a story. There's a beginning and an end to every trick. Songs are the same way, and also picking the song. Is it a sad song? Is it a happy song? Is it a funny song? And also there's comedy in Chris, the way he tells stories, and also teaches you about the music. So I think that's also really similar to storytelling.
Well, I've got to ask, because anybody watching on video is going to wonder, if you're listening on Fringe Audio, Eddie has this beautiful teal ukulele.
That's right. His name is Frank.
Frank, okay.
Yes, he has a name. My first name is Frank, but actually he needed a name, and he's a Fender, which mostly make guitars.
Yeah.
They also make ukuleles. So Frank is a seafoam green ukulele.
What's the history of Frank?
Got in before COVID with my niece.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to teach her self-discipline. I know that seems like a very strange thing, but as a musician, you got to learn stuff. And if you don't practice, you don't have self-discipline.
Yes.
And I was taught early on, music is black and white. You know it or you don't. And I've seen people get fired for not knowing their music. So I wanted her to have a trick of just getting some instant gratification. And if you can play a C, an F, an A minor, and a G, you can play about 12 Christmas songs.
Oh, okay.
So I taught her that, and we do that for Christmas. We also played at Wesley Woods for the senior citizens.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I kept it up. And so that's why Frank, and he is a personality.
Yeah.
He's funny. You can do one zingers or sing something really pretty. So
there's 3 characters in this show, really.
I'd say at least that.
And
at least, yeah.
Eventually, Frank will make a disappearance or a grand illusion.
And I have to find him on stage.
We haven't figured that out yet.
Amazing.
Well, and actually, I actually have 2 other ukuleles. Chris has never met them, I don't think. One is a banjo-lele. It sounds like a banjo.
Okay.
But you play it like a ukulele. It has 4 strings, I think those have 6 or 8, I can't remember. And then I have a bass ukulele. This sounds very electric. Not my favorite, but I do pull them out for different things sometimes.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah. Okay. How about your history with busking?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
But I've just randomly been on. I live on the Beltline, so I will just go out and play.
Yeah.
But mostly to rehearse. But I think what's interesting about it is people are just surprised. I think they were like out getting their steps, walking, and suddenly someone's singing and playing a ukulele, which is a bit unexpected. But also, my friends have said it's also very inviting. Like, this is not a scary instrument, or the sound isn't scary. So that's been interesting, and people stop and listen, and so that's kind of fun.
That's great.
And a lot of the work I do is busking. I mean, I do a lot of stroll around magic and at corporate functions and public events, outdoor spaces. But I'll pull out a coin in an elevator and do a trick for someone who just happens to be riding an elevator with me. And I think I think busking is everywhere.
Yeah.
So, for the magician anyway, because we don't need a lot of fancy props. And it can be a brief interaction with someone, but it can be a life-altering thing for the spectator if it's performed well. I did a function last summer that I remember vividly because it was like 98 degrees. I was doing some work for L5P Biz out in Finley Plaza. So there was some other things going on, but just people strolling by and say, "Hey, come here for a second." And it's not like a 100% conversion rate.
Sure.
But busking is kind of at the core, I think, of what magicians really do.
Yeah.
And I've learned too, as an opera singer, you need an orchestra or a piano. I don't need that anymore. I have this.
Yeah.
And I've also learned too, because Chris was doing a gig and I showed up with Frank, very assuming that I was going to sing. But I've also learned if I don't have the ukulele, I can't sing. So I bring it, and very often people are like, "Will you sing one song?" I'm like, "Of course I can sing one song." So.
And even after drinking, I had Eddie close the show.
That's right.
Wow. But your history of busking does go back a ways, because you brought today your $2 bill. That
I
was
did.
your first.
It was one of my first busking, or actually this one was just notable. I was actually in Piedmont Park shooting some self-video for myself. Just because I needed some content for another application. And I was sitting on the steps at the back of the Botanical Gardens. If you know Piedmont Park, there are these beautiful steps and these gates. And I thought the gates would be a great backdrop. So I sat there with my selfie stick and my I was going to tape, so I was going for it, and I was going to sing La Vie en Rose, which I'll sing for you in a minute. But I was like, I need some content. So I hit start, and I was doing really well, and suddenly these people, I saw them gathering, and this man very gingerly and quietly started crawling up the stairs. He didn't walk. He was like crawling up the stairs, and he crawled up, and my ukulele case was open, which I guess you do in busking to get your tips.
Yeah.
I didn't do that on purpose. It was just there. But he took the $2 bill and very gingerly put it in. I didn't stop. And then he quietly crept backwards. So now I have the $2 bill, but I keep it framed in my house because it's good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it all started. Amazing. What's next for your show after the Atlanta Street Fringe?
We're going to go to Washington, D.C. For Capitol Fringe in July. It'll be a madhouse of, you know how it is. It'll be a madhouse of shows, and we will do 3 shows there. And we will be taking our act on the road, which is a more significant endeavor because of the props, and we're going to learn what really works and what doesn't. And then in August, we're going to be in the Indie Fringe Festival in Indianapolis, doing the same thing. I
volunteer at the public library, which I'm very proud to do. I volunteer at the Ponce de Leon Library. That's my voting center. But I actually get to play for the kids once. 33-year-olds. I call them my thirsty 3-year-olds.
Wow.
I play once a month during story time.
Yeah.
So that's one of my regular gigs. And strangely enough, people say, do you do birthdays? I'm like, yeah. So I've actually started doing that just because it's fun. And these kids they're captivated.
Yeah.
They really do pay attention. So.
You said you have a demonstration for us today as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we do a little... Hold me close and hold me fast. The magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, this is La Vie en Rose. When you press me to your heart, I'm in a world apart. A world where... I'm sorry, we should stop there. Sorry, I just made a mistake.
Very good.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Opera with a ukulele? I've never heard anything like it.
You know, my teacher, John... actually describes me as his unicorn, which makes me very happy. I think in the arts, if you can do something, I think we've learned this, do something that nobody else does. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing we're having fun is discovering what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And another rule that we have, if we don't love it, we're not going to do it.
Good.
Because we want to make people happy, and our barometer is the kids at the library and adults. So like all of our shows and stuff, we want to have a good positive message. So I think that's also one of the rules we've learned.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let everybody know when they can find you at Atlanta Street Fringe.
They can find us Friday night
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock. We are going to be at the drugstore.
Yeah.
And so that is our 5 o'clock gig. And then on Saturday at noon, we are at the Bass Lofts. So please come see us.
Yeah.
Vote for us.
Come see Chris and Eddie. Vote for them for the Atlanta Street Fringe performers. And thank you so much for joining us at the Atlanta Fringe Festival and Atlanta Street Fringe.